Thank you for joining us for this conversation. Now, after nearly 3 months since Sushant Singh Rajput passed away, and a case that actually moved from an accusation of nepotism to a weapon of suicide to murder to money laundering and then eventually to drug abuse, Rhea Chakraborty has been arrested and denied bail, and on latest information, been sent to the Baikala Arthur Road prison. Now, this has left a lot of people very uncomfortable, and there's been obviously a split of arguments on both sides. We're going to try and figure out what these different arguments are. Also, at the same time, there's the whole Kangana Ranaut side that's brewing about the fact that the Shiv Sena said that she's not welcome in Mumbai. She is now coming to Mumbai with heavy police protection. Her office awning was demolished by the BMC. That's being viewed as an abuse of power as well because of the timing of that demolition. So it does seem like there are various political sides at play at this point. But the question we have to ask is, where does this leave citizens? And where does this leave young people? Joining me at this conversation is a voice that a lot of young people look up to. Someone who's always been very outspoken about her point of view, and who's never actually sort of hid what she feels. Swara Bhaskar is an actor and an activist. Swara, good evening, and thank you for joining us. I know that many people were upset at the news that Rhea Chakraborty had been arrested, and I just want to put this up on the screen. This is a campaign that's that's moving through the internet and is largely being supported by people in the entertainment industry and in Bollywood. It reads, "Roses are red, violets are blue, let's smash the patriarchy, me and you." And this was on Rhea Chakraborty's T-shirt as she, as she arrived at the Narcotics Bureau office yesterday. Could you tell us why you believe so many people are supporting this particular banner and this campaign right now?
Well, I think that a lot of us and a lot of people have been feeling very, very uncomfortable at the turn that the Sushant's tragic demise and everything that happened after that took. And initially, it felt like it was an organic and genuine outpouring of grief from fans and people who wanted to honor his memory and remember him and celebrate him for the extremely talented artist that he was. And of course, needless to say, everyone was very shocked by and grief struck by his demise. But I think very quickly we saw his death being used by all manners of vested interests and being turned into an agenda. And sadly, one of our colleagues was the first of the people to do that. And I think the whole discourse after that became very, very hard to trust, quite frankly. I mean, I think that even the nepotism, the initial debate, which was really about nepotism, and while nepotism is an important issue and we should talk about it as an outsider, who better than people like me who have faced it in our own careers. But even at that point, the manner in which that whole debate was framed, it seemed like that we were not genuinely trying to talk about nepotism or better Bollywood. We were basically looking for scapegoats. And then, of course, very quickly, once Rhea became the prime accused in everything that happened, I think a lot of people have been feeling uncomfortable for a very long time, but no one knew how quite to express it. And I think that as the witch hunt of Rhea has become more frenzied, more bloodthirsty, more bizarre, actually, I think that what's happened is that people have been looking for ways to support her. And I think that message on her T-shirt just in some ways said it all, that it's very, very clear that there is a young woman over here who is being made a bit of a scapegoat. And this is notwithstanding whatever is the due process of the law that she has cooperated with. I'm saying just in terms of the discourse around her, and especially what the mainstream electronic media has done to her, and the kind of things that have come up, they all reek not just of voyeurism but of misogyny. I mean, to say that she does kala jadoo and she was controlling him, and the whole narrative is this very, very, it's actually one of those very seedy, tacky narratives from a really bad B grade film. actually, that this girlfriend who was controlling him and was trying to like harpo his money, and it's completely irrational, it's salacious, it's slanderous. I'm sure it's enjoyable as cheap gossip, but the fact is that it's ruining someone's life and it's ruining a family's life. And I think that the reason that people are posting that message that you just showed is that there are a lot of people out there who are not buying into this awful sort of discourse and this media trial that the mainstream electronic media has propagated. And I think this is a way for a lot of us to support that, and to say to Rhea that we recognize that what's happening to you that is something that is highly problematic, it's dangerous, and it's coming from a place of misogyny and sexism, and we stand by you. And I think that that's why a lot of people are sharing that message, and it's a great thing that she's getting some support finally, because I think that that girl has really gone through hell for the last 3 months. I mean, this is a girl who's lost the love of her life. She hasn't had a chance to grieve for the death of her beloved. How sad is that?
Couple of points here that I want to raise. One of the things that's come up on social media is people are asking, why is the support coming now? Why did people wait silently for so long? And you weren't silent, I must point out, but why did people wait silently for so long until after she was arrested to then bring out this support? Why do you think that is?
I think that what happened is that people, when it's a case that is a legal sort of a case that involves, I think people are always scared. Like, I think it's that mob mentality, and that it's that collective psychology. Like, what if she's actually done something? What if there is something wrong? We don't know. You also buy into the rubbish that is being propagated, right? In some invisible way. It's an osmosis thing, right? And then you start doubting yourself. So it's basically, I feel like the TV media and the campaigns it ran was basically gaslighting the public into doubting ourselves, and being like, so not just vilifying her, but also making us doubt ourselves. And of course, there were some of us who have been speaking up from very early on. Um, but I think that there's two things here, Faye. One, the point is not whether she did something or she did not. And I said this in one early tweet. I said that the kind that Kasab was not subjected to the kind of media trial and this kind of very lustful and bloodthirsty idea of mob justice that Rhea has been subjected to. The point is, we're a civilized society. Even if she's an accused, and even if she has done something, it is not the job of TV channels and audiences to sit there and be judge and jury. That is not. We have a judicial process in this country, and it is the process of the law that must take its course. And so that's one thing, that even if she had done something, the point is not is she guilty or not. The point is that even as an accused, this is not how an accused should be treated. Secondly, I think what happened is that a lot of people, the gaslighting that was going on by the media, I think a lot of those people, when Rhea finally spoke up and gave her version of things, it seemed quite clear what was happening. And I think that she was very, very strong. She was very impactful, and she spoke, it seemed, from a very sincere place. And I think that a lot of people were just shaken out of their uh, um, ennui, maybe, or just indifference from watching that interview. And I actually saw a lot of support begin to come out for Rhea after that. And of course, once she got arrested, it's ridiculous, right? It feels like it feels that what happened with Rhea was that we had already declared her guilty, and now it was just a question of finding something to arrest her with. I sometimes wonder that if it had not been this charge of procuring weed or whatever the detailed charge is, she might have been arrested for jumping a traffic signal.
Swara, as a young person in entertainment and in Bollywood right now, does the manner in which this investigation it has been conducted, does it make you feel unsafe or vulnerable?
I think that I think that all of us citizens of India should feel very worried at the manner in which this investigation has turned on. That the fact that some random allegations and conspiracy theories that are propounded on social media, that are then you know, kind of made to trend, perhaps by fake bots. We don't know. There are a few blue tick accounts that, retweet these things, can lead to the the highest law enforcement agencies of the country investigating the actions of a private individual in a case that ideally the Mumbai police should have handled, that it was handling, that it was not allowed to handle and complete their investigation. I think that should worry us all. There are a few things here. One, that as I've written about this, but I want to mention it here. The whole case reminds me of this play by Arthur Miller called The Crucible, which is based on the Salem witch trials of 1692 and 93 in Massachusetts in the United States of America, where a town was basically it became so obsessed with these rumors of witchcraft, and that what began as rumors and a series of coincidental deaths basically led to the incarceration and hanging of more than 40 people, and more than 200 people were tried for being witches. And this has actually happened in Salem, in Massachusetts, and it's remembered as one of the most horrific cases of mass hysteria to have gripped colonial North America. And I feel like that's what's happening with us. I feel like there is a hysteria that has driven this case. That we were not. The fact is that the Mumbai police's initial investigations did not find foul play. But we as an audience were not happy with that. We don't want to accept that it is possible that Sushant was in fact, unfortunately, tragically suffering from mental health issues and did die by suicide. We don't want to accept this. So we are like, it feels like we're finding any other reason. And what is actually worrying is that agencies of the state that we hope would respond with more, perhaps more deliberation, seem to have jumped in on this. I want to raise a point here, which is that I feel that, what this case has also done is that it has really undermined federalism in India, because I feel that the Mumbai police got a really raw deal in this whole thing. There is nothing to suggest that the Mumbai police was not carrying on their investigation in a professional, ethical, objective manner. But because certain, especially Godi media channels, were not happy with the results that were coming out. The results that were coming out from the investigation would not suit their agenda and the TRP. There was this bid for a demand for the CBI to be involved. I actually don't understand why the CBI was involved in the first place. Do we not trust the Mumbai police? Are we suggesting that just because an investigation doesn't give us the answers we want means that there is something wrong, given that there is no history of any kind of foul play over here?
Some people would argue that because this drug angle has now resulted in an arrest, that it vindicates that stand that the Mumbai police either missed this angle or refused to look at it, and the fact that the drug angle has emerged is proof of some sort of wrongdoing. Is that vindication for everything that has happened so far?
I don't think so, because I don't think so, Faye, because the thing is, how did this drug angle emerge? Is the audience supposed to know a daily update on every piece of evidence that is being investigated? How do we know that the Mumbai police would not have reached the drug angle? The fact is that this whole drug thing became a thing when Rhea's chats, which she had given as part of the investigation, was leaked by the agencies themselves to the press. Why are the agencies leaking what is under their own investigation to the press? That's question one. Question two, what does this drug angle really show that Rhea has not already said? She has said on camera that, yes, Sushant did smoke weed. And what is she being charged with? She's being charged with procuring that weed. I mean, the fact is that don't we see the irony of it? If Sushant had been alive, he would have been probed for the same thing and for probably worse charges, because he would have been tested for having consumed those drugs. So just, it's I mean, who is actually, are people missing the fact that one of the accused in this whole case would be Sushant himself? This is what we're doing to the memory of apparently an artist we love so much, that we're just probing his inner habits and his vice. And I do want to say here that, let us make a distinction when we talk about drug use. And I do not endorse drug use. And I'm not saying that a substance abuse is something good. It's great and it must be done. But I would like to point out here that the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act, and I was looking at it yesterday, it's a very fact-specific act. So there is a difference in the law itself, between being caught for possessing commercial quantities of drugs, and there are very technical specifications as to what qualifies as a commercial quantity of drugs. So in the case of weed, it could, and there's been many changes in that law. In the case of weed, it could be that you have to possess more than 20 kilos of weed, and the what you have in possession of yourself must have more than 20 kilos of weed
It,
for it to be commercial quantities. Sorry, my dog is part of this interview now. And oh, and there is a very specific, different sort of set of rules for recreational use of drugs and for the thing. So the fact is that at this point we don't really know. We're yet to find out what are those details.
we'd never be able to establish whether this was commercial quantities or personal consumption quantities because there's been no seizure of the actual said drugs. It's only when they're taken and forensically examined and weighed will we be able to establish whether this was commercial quantities, which is was meant for peddling and for sale, or was it bought to consume personally? Because the drugs per se have been used up allegedly, and they no longer exist. And so that would actually be a really, an odd case as well. Because there are, like you said, there are many gaps in the case that's been brought forward by the NCB. But one of the other things I want to ask you about is this. The NCB said that they don't want remand custody and they asked for judicial custody instead. Apparently, the only difference between the two is that she's not in police lockup and she gets sent to prison, to jail, to the Baikala jail where we send hardened criminals. And, one wonders what the motive might have been to actually put that young woman through that.
Really think that, I mean, I really feel and that it is very unfortunate what is being done to Rhea. I think she is being made out to be more of a criminal than she is. I really want to say at this point that despite the fact, and I'm saying this in spite the fact that I understand that she has accepted that she had procured those drugs, I do want to say that she has cooperated with every stage of an investigation that must be extremely scary. I mean, I don't think Nirav Modi and Mehul Choksi have been questioned like this for money laundering and for siphoning of funds in the way in which Rhea has been examined. I don't think, as you're saying, hardened criminals are investigated by 3 different agencies of the center and 2 sets of police departments. She's cooperated with everything. She has I don't think that she's a criminal. I don't think she's lying. And I think that this need for us as an audience and as a public to prove that she's a criminal, and this need for us to sort of find some kind of incriminating thing. I mean, I really think, forget Rhea, whatever will happen to her as per the law, I'm sure that will take its course. What are we doing? Like, what are we becoming in this process? And I feel very worried because I know that Baikala jail has reported, I think, COVID cases, lots of them, and there was it was in the news that the COVID case is kind of out of control there. So I mean, I just feel very bad for her and for that family, and it really feels like she's being punished far more than her crime, at least at this stage, as far as whatever we know right now. And Faye, I really want to say again, and I'm only speaking as an observer, it seems like this whole thing is motivated. Like it really, I can't help but notice that the very people who had banned and asked for the ban of Sushant's film Kedarnath because it allegedly showed love jihad, because the heroine is a Hindu and the hero is a Muslim, and they fall in love and they have a kissing scene. The people who asked for the ban of that film and were baying for Sushant's blood, the people who were baying for Sushant's blood and trolling him mercilessly when he dropped the name Rajput, his surname Rajput, for some time to protest what had happened to the film Padmavat, those people are now printing posters in Bihar around the election saying that we will not forget you, Sushant. Yeah, of course you won't forget him. It serves your interest.
Of course, let's not ignore the fact that there has been a poster that's come out for the Bihar elections that has Sushant Singh's photograph on it saying "Na bhulenge, na bhulne denge." Obviously, this is now part of sort of the electoral promises being made by our politicians.
Exactly. I mean, doesn't that show us that there is someone who is gaining from this, and that is not Sushant, and it's not his memory. Because I actually think that we are really desecrating the memory of a dead man. Now everyone knows that Sushant had a drug problem or a drug habit. Did we need to know this?
One of the things that has pained me personally the most of all, apart from the fact that a lot of this has been patriarchal and misogynistic, is the fact that it has also completely eclipsed all of the real issues our country is facing, like farmer suicides, floods in many of our states, a really tense situation with China at the LAC, the COVID numbers that are among, in some cases, the worst in the world on some metrics, and of course our tanking economy. It's almost like as citizens we don't care about any of those things. That perhaps signals the fact that mainstream media has really failed to do its job.
I mean, thank you, yes, for saying that, Faye. And I know that you've been saying it regularly. I know that you've been sort of drawing attention to the issues that should actually be in the news. I really think that one of the people who's benefiting the most from this case being alive is the mainstream, most of the mainstream electronic media channels, because I think that this whole case is basically being kept alive in this race for TRPs. And I read a very, very incriminating article that actually reflects very badly, not just on the media, but also on us as audiences and as news consuming audiences. The fact that every time some of the channels tried to move away from the story, their TRPs dropped. And every time they brought the story back, their TRPs shot through the roofs. And I just feel that, of course, that reflects, I mean, a channel will also look at its own business. But what does that say about us as news consuming public? I mean, are we this voyeuristic, shallow, gossip mongering, salacious, and just petty people that we don't care about our own self interest? I mean, India has the highest, I think now, or second highest caseload of virus cases in the world. We have the highest daily number of cases being reported. We have an economy that has contracted by over 23%. We have China that is inside our borders. We don't care. We don't care about our own self-interest as long as we know कि Bollywood के gossip हमारे को मिल रहे हैं. We just, that is all we are interested in is Bollywood gossip. I don't understand. I mean, this is a public that has just lost its mind completely, and we're all part of this. I mean, I'm sorry to say that we are all equally sort of in to blame for this, and it's very well to criticize the media as we must, because as I said, that I really feel that TV journalism is dead. It's dead. But we participated in its demise as news consuming audiences.
The truth is, I completely agree with you. I believe that this last episode has only shown us that the producers of Big Boss will have a run for their money from news studios, because news studios are running reality shows. They're chasing someone down and actually making a meal out of this entire thing. And if a news channel is going to show you whatever titillates you and excites you, as opposed to what is important and what you need to know, that is no longer a news channel. That is an entertainment channel. That's a GEC channel. These channels should be recategorized to compete with the general entertainment channels and compete with those channels that show you reality television, because that's what they're showing you. And I do believe that there is a great responsibility to be taken here by audiences. I've noticed the same thing on YouTube, that whenever we do a story about farmer suicides, when we do a story about mental health, about suicide hotlines, about about education, about COVID, that there is a fatigue and people don't watch. They would prefer to listen to gossip and conspiracy theories about the rich and famous. And my last question to you is this: you are part of that. Yes.
She's not even that rich, the poor girl. I mean, really, it's horrendous. Her father is a retired army officer. Like, it's a middle class family. She's not even that rich. She's a young actor I mean, now we know every detail about that family. It's unfortunate. We know how much money she made in the last year. Why do we know this? Look at what we're doing to just a regular family. I mean, the rich people are the Nirav Modis and the Mehul Choksis, who are the people who ought to have been investigated by the ED. And they're like sitting and have citizenship of other countries, and they're chilling wherever in Antigua or whatever. What are our priorities? I don't understand.
That's that similarity that you have with her. That your dad's also retired from the forces. Your mom's a professor. You come from also a non-entertainment family. Is there a sense you get of the fact of what this family might be going through? Because both Rhea and her brother are in custody right now. They've both been arrested.
It's horrifying. I feel so bad for the family, and I just want to say that my father has been so disturbed, because I think that there's just such a he feels like he really like he and a lot of I've noticed that a lot of people who are fathers have been messaging and saying that we feel bad because this could have been our daughters, and it does ring very home. And as I said, that all young people should feel worried by this, because it could have been any of us could be faced with a tragedy like this, and could find ourselves in the eye of a completely constructed storm of this nature. And I think, I'm really sorry I'm saying this, but what are the priorities of our country? Like, I don't understand, as a public, as a nation, as a news consuming public, as these agencies. And there was a statement by the Narcotics Bureau that said that we don't normally investigate cases of these kind of individual cases. I just want to I mean, it just I, I'm just I'm wondering. I'm It feels like we live in this weird kind of a world of surveillance, where now all our small vices are going to become the subject of these like huge investigations. And I'm sitting and thinking, how many traffic signals have I jumped? This is my great concern, because I know I've jumped a couple of traffic signals. So I'm very worried.
At any point did and I know your parents have been extremely supportive of your career this entire time, but at any point did they turn around, and you're in Delhi with them in this lockdown, did they turn around and say, are you sure you want to continue to do this? It doesn't seem like a very stable industry to be part of.
I mean, they're not letting me go back to Bombay right now. That's what's happened in all this. They're just like, you're not going back right now. Just stay for a while. Let everything settle down in Bombay. I mean, not that I'm part of this sort of in this case at all, and I really do exist very much. I'm likely to get into trouble for CA and RC protests, that rather than being at Bollywood parties. That is the oddity in my case. It's the contempts of court and other kinds of. But yeah, no, they've been. I think everyone's parents should be worried, and I think all of us as citizens should be worried, because, as I said, that it just feels like it feels like that public decency has perished amidst us, and it feels like our values as a society they are dead. And I also feel that our institutions, you always want democratic institutions to kind of be based on values, and to protect higher ideals. And it feels scary to see institutions fighting with each other. Bihar police and Mumbai police fighting with each other, the narcotics bureau being called in, the ED coming and investigating a case. Today I saw reporters heckling a postman for demolishing Kangana's office, and he's saying, I'm a postman, I haven't done it, and they're yelling at him. It feels like you're living in an anarchic world where there's no sense. Like, is there nobody who can just say, wait, stop? Just everyone switch off your televisions. Read a book, for God's sake. Just read a freaking book. Like, yeah, it's crazy. I'm really sorry about my dog in the middle of. All right.
We love your dog. I had to send mine for a walk because she was barking in the background. Maybe Goro and Phoebe can meet at some point. No, but I agree with you that we do need to tell people to move away from the televisions, to move away from the screens right now, because fundamentally, I honestly believe it's not healthy. It's not healthy to watch that much screaming and shouting right before you go to bed. For you, for the team that works in these channels, for the panelists that actually show up at these conversations. And more importantly, we've discovered that these are just completely motivated conversations that are taking place in order to drive and put pressure on investigations, and investigators who are being put pressure on by politicians, and politicians who only care about winning elections. There is zero governance going on. Look at the kind of, we have, our economy is, at its worst point since independence. Let that sink in. We're reporting, and I've had enough people argue with me saying that, we're such a large country, so we will have higher COVID numbers. We're reporting the highest COVID deaths per day than anyone else in the world. That should worry us. 1,000 people are dying in our country every day. That should worry us. our joblessness, our economy, the kids having to go back to college, answer exams at a time when we have this. I mean, there's so many things. There are so many things, and this is what we are obsessed with. That should really make us pull back and really introspect as to where we are right now and how we got here. Swara Bhaskar, thank you so much for speaking with me here on our YouTube channel. It's a pleasure. I wish you good luck. Godo, thank you for making a special appearance in this conversation as well. That's Swara and her dog having a conversation with us about where we've gotten to the point right now after this arrest and why it requires some introspection.